what he loves doing to set the tone in a series. That is going to be a proxy Rax Reaper. ShoWTimE is a player who, much more than many other Protosses, loves going gate Nexus if he can. But he is going to scout. He's going to see there's no supply depot at home. And I don't think he's going to take the gamble. He's looking around. Okay, he checks for the... I like this check on that little spot. But I think we are going to see gate cyber. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to see. So he is going to make the adjustment. But there's still potential for this to be, you know, quite annoying. Grab a probe or two, see what it can get done. ShoWTimE will need to drop that pylon very shortly to make sure he doesn't miss any of his timings. And I would love to see it right. Oh, beautiful. That's going to block a Reaper jump in point. And it's also going to block a Reaper jump out point. Nice moves from ShoWTimE.
It also means that pylon is not particularly vulnerable to a well-placed bunker trying to shell down, not just on the prospective shield battery, but the bunker as well. ShoWTimE's going to try to get as much damage on this SCV as possible, because that does put a timer a little bit on this pressure. Yeah, the SCV can sit in the bunker and this probe will die. But if you can go and you can get half damage on the SCV as it is, it's a little bit harder, and Maru has a little bit less room for error to do the pop in, pop out, jump around thing on the barrack, or on the bunker, excuse me, to get that. So for now, first Stalker's out, second one's going to get chronoed out, but conspicuously here, Steadfast, we talked about shield batteries being exposed or not. There's no shield battery for this Stalker to really sit behind. There's a shield battery on the way now, but you'd like it to be done at this point. You'd like to be able to put the pressure on the bunker and not just kind of let it sit there and deny that much more mining time.
Yeah, you absolutely would, but he will be able to get that up. And that's another thing I wanted to mention about the pylon, is that it allows him to drop a shield battery on the low ground without exposing itself, like you said. We are going to see just a single Reaper. So this is just going to be up to denying mining time. Maru trying a cheeky escape with the SCV. Very nice that ShoWTimE spots that, because one, he gets the kill. Two, it lets him cancel the shield battery. That's actually fantastic for ShoWTimE. Not a massive deal, but very nice that he's able to do that. However, the follow through of double Cyclone, here's the drawback of not putting the pylon at the front. Now there's no option to build a shield battery there. This could be dangerous. ShoWTimE, oh, look at that. Gets enough damage on that Reaper such that a probe can just kill it, instantly pulls that probe, gets the snipe, gets the assassination, and Maru's not able to find out that it's a Stargate. This actually could be potentially dangerous for Maru if he moves out with just those first two Cyclones. Because a Phoenix lift on one of those Cyclones would be big. It is going to be a Cyclone drop, but the concept of that Phoenix lift being dangerous is still very real.
It is, but this is it's on both sides, right? So as we look at here, Liberators on the way, additional Cyclones. Maru looks like he's got some additional push plans behind this. You have to be very careful, because yes, on the one hand, two Cyclones in the medevac, Phoenix can lift that.
If he drops in, this is a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to drop it off. Your Stalker runs away. One Cyclone's going to get lifted. Second one's going to try to run away as well as it can. Stalkers will not die. At the very least, Steadfast, one Cyclone gets out. At the very least, the medevac gets out. But I mean, for how much longer here? Phoenix can chase this down for the time being. And this ShoWTimE moving on the map like this is pretty dangerous, though, because again, Maru, he wanted to drop with it, sure, but there's another round. There are more Cyclones on the map, more Marines on the map here, and Liberator's going to look to siege up as a Phoenix falls down. And yeah, the first drop was very much a disaster, but this second round with more Phoenix and more Cyclones and more Marines, this becomes that much more difficult to stop.
Well, so it could have been a disaster. If he loses both Cyclones, it's very bad for Maru, but he was able to get away with one of them. He redropped the Cyclone, which was really bold, but ShoWTimE wasn't able, of course, to get the lift. Maru was trying to get the kill on that one Stalker that was softer from earlier. Shield battery will complete. Maru really needs to be careful about pushing the issue too hard here. We do have that Liberator in the main base, though. That's why Maru is still here. And it gets two probes, but a very quick reaction time from ShoWTimE mitigates the damage. We still have a 7-worker lead. However, Maru has gone 1-1-1-3 CC. So his economy is going to be very good. And the fact that he has kept those Cyclones alive, was able to kill a Phoenix, is good news for Maru, but he has to be very careful with this army. It is still very fragile. There's the double lift, but I don't know if this is the right call from ShoWTimE. He didn't have the rest of the army in position, and he will lose two Phoenixes very quickly. Oh, that's one of those situations where you feel like you can take the jump, but the DPS of those Cyclones is just so high that you can oftentimes end up underestimating their power. And I think that's what happened with ShoWTimE. He's like, oh, I have an opportunity. I need to jump this army. And instead, he ends up getting a bit of a bloody nose for it. Didn't quite work out the way you'd planned. If the rest of the army's there, that's an amazing jump from ShoWTimE, because he probably kills 4 or 5 Cyclones, maybe loses those 2 Phoenixes, but has a really good time preventing Maru from landing the third base. As it is, Maru, I think, should be able to land that third. There's no blink, no charge. It's just these regular stalkers, and they're not going to be able to do too much. Good job from ShoWTimE not losing this observer with the Raven out. Maru, though, building 2 Reapers. That's a little bit of an oopsie, I think. Okay, yeah, he cancels the one. So I was like, maybe it's a scouting Reaper, but no.
The plan, Steadfast, is to get the KDA charges so you can go, and when the Cyclone pressure happens, you can bump the Cyclones into the sky.
Yeah, okay.
There we go. I'm actually not even sure if that works on massive units. You never see it.
It does not.
Okay, fair enough. I'm like, I don't know that I've ever actually seen that interaction one way or the other, but regardless, no, that's not going to happen. Now, you're right. If ShoWTimE had been able to jump on top of that army, Maru was not going to have a lot back at home. He had been greedy behind this, but as it stands, his third base is up right around the same time that ShoWTime's is on location. He's down a couple workers, but Mules absolutely make up for that. And now if you're ShoWTimE, you have defended well enough. You lost a couple Phoenix, which doesn't make you particularly happy. But attacking into this third base scenario, even if you're trying to hit the +1 charge timing, doesn't really seem all that attractive, which means that, hey, you know, technically this is ShoWTimE's bailiwick. Get on the 4 bases, play defensively. And if we go back to what you were talking about at the start of this, and Maru was playing, Templar Archives. Storm seems on the menu here.
No, I don't think it's going to be Storm. I think we're going to see a big charge lot Colossus, like 3 Colossus charge lot Archon timing potentially. You don't necessarily have to commit to this, but it can be very potent. Now, what we could also see ShoWTimE going for is maybe just some high Templar to try and feed back the Ravens. But this is a very Raven vulnerable army. Interference matrices could be good, but this is a bit of an awkward position for Maru. However, he's got a bunch of reinforcements coming in from the side. Colossus shut down, and this is going to be a very good jump for Maru. The Colossus will wake back up, and those Archons don't have a great answer, but there's just not enough stuff for ShoWTimE. Maru powering through here. It was a bit of an awkward position for him, but ShoWTimE just was not ready to take that fight, and Maru punished very hard.
That he did. You talked about it being an awkward scenario. No, it was just a massive surround coming out of Maru, really taking advantage of the timing. And, you know, trying to talk about this a little bit, ShoWTimE wasn't quite there, right? You give him another Warpend round, maybe he's good. Maybe he's got those charge lots ready to go, but at this point, again, this is a hard position to defend with those Ravens there available. You talked about how weak it is to the Raven play, and it's absolutely true. And now Maru is going to look for a different angle, right? ShoWTimE, he's going to try to get this 4th base up once again. He's got Warp Prism speed on the way as he gets ready to move in the late game. And actually, Maru's army's entirely on the left-hand side of the map here. It's like 1 tank, it's a couple Marauders. There's not a ton here. ShoWTimE, if he had a Warp Prism, if he's another round of Zealots ready to go, this feels like it might be breakable, certainly once the supply depots go down. But as it stands, he's not ready to break it down, not just yet. Maru's army gets ready to move into the natural on top of the Robo right now. ShoWTimE cannot take advantage of that vacant army. He's going to try to dive on top on the other side and Steadfast. We're going full base trade here. SCVs and Bio's going to have to run away. And yeah, the third base is going to get broken for a time, but A, there are Vikings defending the natural. B, the SCVs are out. And ShoWTimE lost his Robo. He lost his natural. He's going to lose the Robo Bay very quickly as well. And the balance of the damage that's happening at the moment, this is far better for Maru, but you still have to defend this attack at the front. Meanwhile, Zealots in the main base as well. SCVs are going to start to fall here. Maru tries to get on top of the Colossus, diving on top of them. 1 will fall, 2nd as well, and that is going to do it. Maru catches his opponent just way off guard on multiple parts of this game. Maru goes up 1.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that happened right there. Obviously, we know with what Maru had at the third base, ShoWTimE could have just blasted right through that with the army. But of course, you're never expecting about 40 supply of bio to just not be there. That just doesn't make any sense. ShoWTimE didn't have an observer. He couldn't see behind it. So it makes sense that he didn't go in for that. Then Maru, upon seeing where ShoWTimE's army was and that he was kind of slow sieging it, which makes sense for ShoWTimE to do with what he knew, Maru just guns right across the map, initiates the base trade. And at that point, there was almost nothing ShoWTimE was going to be able to do. Heads up play from Maru. That fight in the middle of the map was definitely a situation where neither player, I think, expected the other army to be there. But fortunately for Maru, his reinforcements were coming from the south side, and it turned into a bit of a funky surround on its own. And of course, he dropped those interference matrices, shut down the Colossus. A very interesting game. Definitely one of those games where things went off the rails very quickly, and Maru just capitalized in a big way. He had a clean, solid early game, got a little bit of damage done. More importantly than anything, though, he got up to that 3 bases very quickly. He got the 1-1, the stim, the combat shields all coming online. And you mentioned that timing. It worked very well for him.
That it did. But of course, we have more games on the way. Yeah, game 1 was, I don't want to say an unmitigated disaster for ShoWTimE because, you know, he did have some opportunities. He handled the bunker really nicely. But on the balance of things, this was not the game that ShoWTimE wanted to play. This was not how he wanted to present himself in the series thus far. He kind of got unlucky sometimes, and Maru, you just played very well on some aspects as well. But it's another day. It's another game. Or not actually another day. It's the same day. But it's another game as we get ready to move into this series, or move further into the series. Game 2 on Solaris is ready. And the upper right in the blue, down a game, looking to hold on, maybe a little bit stronger, hit back, even stronger still. For Berlin International Gaming, it's ShoWTimE.
And his opponent, very decisive to start off that base trade once he knew the situation. It is Vitality Maru in the red. Very impressive stuff from Maru. Really decisive, which is what you need to be in those base trade situations. He also was quite good with the Viking kiting against those Colossus. ShoWTimE, that is one of those situations where I think, I don't want to look too much into it, but I think ShoWTimE's game plan was taking that forward 4th base to act as a bit of a jumping off point for what was going to be a 3 Colossus, you know, Charge Lot Archon style push, which is something that if the Terran player doesn't have ghosts can be very effective. However, it really didn't pan out for him. If he gets a force field on the ramp against that first army from Maru and really is able to kind of clamp it down and limits the surface area of his opponent, even with the Colossus being shut down, it's not necessarily the biggest deals. Or even the other side of that coin, he has 2 High Templar and he feedbacks the Ravens, and those Colossus are awake for that fight, and the force fields are the same as we saw. Things could have gone very different, but Maru, like I said, very decisive, got the job done, and will take down game number 1. Now, this is very interesting. ShoWTimE dropping a pylon to see, hey, what are you doing next? And first of all, A, scout it. B, stop a reactor from coming down right away. Oh, then he cancels it. Maru goes for it. But this does delay the reactored Cyclones by, what, 15 seconds? 10, 15 seconds? Very nice.
Something like that, absolutely. So a little bit less of a power budget available to Maru early on. Certainly not bad, but again, slows down a little bit. And now we're going to see a Stargate opener from ShoWTimE once again. We talked about how the Phoenix can get lift on the Cyclone drop, and they can be very nice. But on the flip side, a lot of these Cyclone openers, a lot of these Cyclone builds, again, if that's what Maru chooses to go for, a lot of that actually is almost designed to deal with these Stargate openers. If you're not in the right position, if you open Oracle first, that's a bit of a problem. If it is a more committed behind this, but we talked about the Cyclone openers and reactors on factory. Steadfast, he's building a second Hellion. He's building more Reapers here. This is a TVT opening that we sometimes see in this matchup. It can get a lot of, if there's no wall, which by the way, there is no wall in the natural, this can get a lot of damage done. A single Phoenix lift does not stop this.
No, it certainly doesn't. And what I was wondering and kind of hoping for ShoWTimE's sake, I guess if you're hoping for it for Maru's sake, Phoenix is what you want to see. But if it's going to be an Oracle first, that can actually deal with this extremely well. I can't remember the last time Maru's opened 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion in this matchup. And it's a bit of an audible call, it feels like, and it will be quite effective. We are going to see an attempted lift coming on in Oh, no lift so far. Hellion does run by. Good target fire, actually, from ShoWTimE. And a great probe pull. Oh, my goodness. He's going to lose... Two probes. Oh, man. He was so close to saving that probe. He, like, almost kept Maru from getting the target fire, but Maru ultimately does take down the probe. Still, that is a really good defense. And something else, this is off of a gate nexus. I mentioned ShoWTimE prefers this if he can get away with it. Ooh, Cyclone in the middle of the map. Fortunately for ShoWTimE, he does get to the high ground. Oh, but a little bit of a bad rally on the Phoenix cost him a lot of HP. First Phoenix, understandable, losing that HP. Second one, that's a lot more painful.
It really is, but you know, on the flip side, Steadfast, if you're able to lift both Cyclones, there's not a ton of anti-air damage behind it. There's a shield battery right here. It's not great, absolutely not. It does remove a lot of utility from those Phoenix on the map, but if you're trying to make sure you can just defend against it with their only 2 Cyclones, it's manageable. The problem is as more Cyclones start to get added, we got 4 on the way, and ShoWTimE is holding the ramp, but he's holding the wrong ramp. Maru's gonna find this prospective third base location. Pylon gets canceled, probe goes down, and now ShoWTimE, do you rotate over here? Do you go back to your natural and defend it that way? Well, actually, what you're going to go do is go deal with the Liberator that's going to show up in the main base. ShoWTimE's aware of this. It's still going to take a second to knock it down, but as the Phoenix are here and the Stalkers are there, it actually is going to be totally fine. Maru getting much less damage done in this game, too, with a very similar opener compared to game number 1. And if you're a ShoWTimE fan, that's making you pretty happy.
Yes, less damage. Which is obviously a good thing. Oh, ShoWTimE, you gotta be careful with those Phoenixes. That is so many Cyclones and represents so much anti-Phoenix DPS. And I think that's why we're seeing ShoWTimE not commit to the Phoenixes as much. Of course, if he continued to pump them out against double Cyclone production, it's gonna be really difficult to actually contest the army. ShoWTimE should be able to push his opponent off the high ground, and that will allow him to secure this third base. But Maru, I really love the setup of what he's gone for in these 2 games. This seems like a great way to play against ShoWTimE's style that he's chosen. It is that, you know, that 1-1-1 off of its fast expand, even though it wasn't a super fast expand this game, 1-1-1 into third CC into that double engineering bay. It works really well against what ShoWTimE is going for. Now, ShoWTimE does have an army supply advantage, a very small one, and army power is actually rather substantial. But he still has to be very careful. The DPS of those Cyclones is no joke. But can ShoWTimE find anything here? He's got the vision with the Observer. This is a little bit interesting for Maru, a very anti-Phoenix lift positioning on these units.
Yeah, so ShoWTimE can definitely delay the third base for a time. I think that is kind of guaranteed. I don't think he breaks this. There are too many Cyclones. Ideally, if you're ShoWTimE, you run in, you lift the tank, right? That's what you're looking for. You lift the tank. Immortals and the Stalkers deal with everything else. But because there are, what is this, 8 Cyclones on the map, and and some Marines, any sort of lift is just going to get shot down nearly immediately. So ShoWTimE can posture. He can delay the third base for a time, maybe try to dive in now and find some SCVs, and this almost feels like it's going to be a one-way trip with how many Cyclones there are, as long as he's not like, really on top of it. But even still, as we look at this, lock-ons there.
Yeah, he's got to get into the corner and just recall.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Okay. I was going to say, when the Phoenixes spread out, there might have been an opportunity for Maru to get some pickoffs, at least get one of them, but no, ShoWTimE was quick enough with the recall. Something very interesting, by the way, in this game number 2, in addition to everything we've seen, it's already been a rather neat set of openings. In addition to, you know, this stim combat shields, 1-1 concussive shells, all finishing very close together. We also see Maru on 4 Tech Lab Marauder. That is not a common setup. It's usually 3 Tech Labs, 2 reactors. So he is going to be pumping out an extra large number of Marauders going into the mid game. It will be these 2 Ravens once again, and ShoWTimE doing pretty much the same setup, saying, you know what, I actually feel pretty good about what I did. I just need to execute better, maybe. We do see a scan coming down at the third base. ShoWTimE. Okay, there's those High Templar I was looking for in the previous game. Oh no, but the Phoenix! That's every single Phoenix dead, and an instant cancel on the 4th. Very nice find for Maru. Very unfortunate for ShoWTimE.
Oh, and an immediate... yeah, I love this from Maru. Phoenix are dead. Okay, I'm going to immediately boost the main base, or at least pretend like I am, because that's going to force ShoWTimE to posture much more defensively. So now he tries to dive on top of things. Double feedback on the double shutdown of the Colossus, even with the Eye Templar here. They're not in position, not really. And Maru now looking to wedge his way on into the natural. Now, Warp Prism Speed is going to be done soon. Who the hell cares about that? Charge is done here. Archons are at the front, and the shutdown on the Colossus continues to be found. There are 3 Colossus, only 1 of them can fire. There's a 4th one on the way. But Steadfast with this heavy pressure coming out of Maru on the natural and the 3rd base. I'm not convinced that that is necessary. Well, actually, Maru's going to back up, so never mind. ShoWTimE should be able to handle this, but he's going to lose the 3rd base. So even as he forces Maru back, and he's got that 4th Colossus on the way, ShoWTimE, this stable, defensive, late-game Protoss, he's forced to go all in.
Yeah, he's got pretty much no choice. He lost... Wait, oh, he's taking a 4th base. Oh, Widowmine? Okay, there's a Widowmine in the naturals. That is going to just get a single shot. Is there an armory? Yes, there is. So it is going to be perma-cloaked until an observer pops out. I mean, it's still perma-cloaked, but observer will reveal it. There was some really cool maneuvering right there from Maru. He feinted ShoWTimE so hard and really utilized the lack of those Phoenixes to exploit an amazing position. ShoWTimE, unfortunately, was not able to get a feedback on the 2nd Raven. The first set of shutdowns was rough. The second one was what made that go from rough to disastrous. Now, ShoWTimE's going to still try and get through here. Ghost count is not super high yet. So maybe if he finds the absolute dream fight, there's a chance. He is going to slow play this with the Colossus. Not a ton of Vikings yet, but there's also no blink on the Stalkers. We do see a maneuver coming on in from ShoWTimE. He moves through this position. Nice feedbacks on the Ravens. But can the Warp Prism Micro be good enough? No, he loses one of the Colossus. There's so much bio blasting through this choke. ShoWTimE took about the best fight he could have, but Maru just absolutely overwhelmed.